hot weather worldwide. For example, El Niño conditions cause wetter than normal conditions in the south and warmer and drier conditions in the north during winter. David Legates is a climatologist with the Cornwall Alliance and says a recent news article titled "Scientists Change How El Niño is Labeled to Keep Up with Spike in Temperature" was a bit confusing.
You read the title and maybe the first paragraph or two. You get the impression, okay, so the water is warming and El Niños are going through the roof in terms of temperature, so now we have to change how that's happening. But then if you start reading it, the reason they're changing it is they're saying, well, it's not absolute temperature, it's relative temperature.
The Climate Prediction Center says it will use the Relative Oceanic Niño Index to better designate past events and predict future El Niño and La Niña events. The traditional index relies on a departure from a 30-year average that struggles to keep pace with changes in tropical sea surface temperatures. Legates said the change in labeling will be helpful.
With a warmer world and temperatures getting warmer, that we can't just base it on absolute values. We need to really base it on local values because, in particular, that's what the atmosphere is going to respond to anyway. If there's a warm body of water there that's warmer than the surrounding area, that's going to have an effect.
I'm Robert Thornton.
For American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh.
Every day, AFA offers biblical insight on issues that others aren't willing to touch in the hopes that you'll become a world changer. That's why we're offering an in-depth worldview training course called Activate. 13 different professors teaching 18 sessions, all available online, including a printed workbook to help you apply what you've learned and 1-year access to AFA streaming content to give you even more resources. Find out more about Activate and sign up today at activate.afa.net. We inform.
Religious freedom is about people of faith being able to live out their faith, live out their convictions, no matter where they are.
We equip.
Sacred honor is the courage to speak truth, to live out your free speech.
We also rejoice in our sufferings because we know that suffering produces perseverance, perseverance, character, and character, hope.
This is At the Core on American Family Radio.
Welcome to The Core here on American Family Radio. Glad to have you with us today on the program. Walker Wildmon here with you on At the Core. This is the American Family Radio Network. You can subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, and you can listen live over at afr.net or the AFR app. Either location, you can listen live, afr.net or the AFR app. As I said, the podcast is uploaded each and every afternoon wherever you listen to podcasts. And of course, we have the video up on all the major social media platforms, including stream.afa.net, stream.afa.net. Well, let's turn our attention to the scripture, looking at John chapter 16, verses 33. These things I have spoken to you, that in me you may have peace. In the world you will have tribulation, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. That's John chapter 16, verse 33, where Jesus is foretelling of the tribulation and the trials of the church, and how being a follower of Christ does not come without a cost and does not come easy, for two main reasons. The first one is that following Christ and trusting in Jesus requires a continual putting off of self, a continual turning away from self and towards righteousness. That's the number one challenge. Number two, you're going against the ways of the world, or the way of the world. And so those are the two primary things that bring about difficulty in a believer's life. And that's why we should not expect on this side of eternity for the believer's life to be quote unquote easy or without trial or difficulty. And our ultimate hope is in Jesus and our salvation in eternity. John chapter 16, that's verses 33. Well, what better time to go to places of America's early founding history than the 250th anniversary? We must not forget this is the year of America's 250th, and we're going to be going to places such as Williamsburg, Jamestown, Yorktown. We're going to be going to Washington, D.C. Both of those trips take place in June and September. And then we're going to Boston at the end of September after our Washington trip. And so for all the information, all of the dates, you can check out tours.afa.net, tours.afa.net, and you can register, find out all the information you need to know over at tours.afa.net. And once again, June and September for Williamsburg, Washington, and then the end of September for Boston. And this is America's 250th. And so what better time to tour colonial America and Washington, D.C., and Boston than America's 250th. It's sure to be special. And we're also going to Israel and Greece here just in a couple weeks for our 2026 trip of the Holy Land and of Greece, the footsteps of Paul. So if you're interested in those, well, of course, it's too late for 26, but we'll be going back, Lord willing, in 2027. Well, let's jump right into our news stories of the day. There's a lot to talk about with the State of the Union last night, and it was rather good, honestly, was my assessment. Very well delivered speech by the president. And what I thought was maybe most beneficial about the president's State of the Union is the contrast that was drawn and the differences that were pointed out between the Republican Party and the conservative movement and the Democrats. I mean, every day that goes by, the parties continue moving further and further in the opposite directions. And the Democrats, this is just hard for me to understand how this party gets the level of votes that they do. Now, granted, if you look at the 2024 election, you will see that President Trump carried the day. He carried the day on the popular vote and the battleground states. And so you look at the 2024 election from a presidential standpoint, and you say, well, the Democrat Party really doesn't have the votes. I mean, they can't govern the country. But then I look at, how they just won in Virginia and New Jersey and some of these other places, and I'm looking at these midterm polls, and it's hard for me to comprehend how the Democrats have the votes to win elections. This is just quite bizarre. And just to give you a little bit of a glimpse into the kind of absurdity that took place last night at the State of the Union. There were multiple times. First off, nearly, let's say, the Congress has 435 and the House 535 with 100 senators. So 435, 60 to 70 Democrat congressmen skipped out on the State of the Union. So I don't know, let's say at least a quarter of the Democrat caucus totally missed the State of the Union. They didn't even show up. And so we got a party that completely skips the State of the Union, at least a quarter of their party, of their caucus, completely skip the State of the Union. And then you have Democrats not standing for nearly anything. I think they stood for war with Iran. They clapped about that. At least Elizabeth Warren did. Even though 3 hours earlier she tweeted that oh, we don't need to go to war with Iran. But then she applauded it. So I'm not sure what she wants to do. But nonetheless, there were multiple occasions where the Democrats could at least find some sort of decency to applaud very nonpartisan things. Like maybe when we honored Erica Kirk, or when we honored the family of the Ukrainian refugee who was knifed down in the subway in North Carolina, in Charlotte. I mean, maybe we could stand for her family. Or maybe we could stand when President Trump says that the role of the government and the role of elected officials is to represent the American people and not illegal immigrants. Oh no, Democrats couldn't stand for that, not a one of them. And so this shows you where they are. They really are the party of everything anti-America. And they're really the largest foreign lobbying organization in existence today, the Democrat Party is, because they lobby for everything except America. Let's play a couple of these clips. This is going to be President Trump telling the audience and the lawmakers that, hey, if you agree with this, stand up to show you're in agreement that the primary role of the government is to protect the American people. This is clip 6.
So tonight I'm inviting every legislator to join with my administration in reaffirming a fundamental principle. If you agree with this statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens.
Is President Trump telling folks to, hey, stand up if you agree with this, and guess what the Democrats do? They stay seated. They just can't stand it. They can't bring it upon themselves to stand up and clap for virtually anything. And I understand, I'm not naive to the fact that the Democrats have a pretty strong voting bloc in amongst the populace, all right? And when I say pretty strong, I'm talking about there's at least 20 to 30% of the American voting base that they'll vote Democrat. It doesn't matter what the Democrats do. I mean, just as you have this kind of very devoted voting bloc for President Trump, you've got equally the same, if not stronger, for the Democrats. I mean, it's got to be at least 30% of the American voting populace that is just hardcore Democrat, Marxist, left-wing, anti-America, America's evil, we've got to bring it down, we've got to, quote, transform America, change America, as Obama said. I mean, it's got to be at least 30% of the voting bloc. I'm not talking 30% of the Democrat Party. I'm telling you, I think there's at least 30% of the American people that are hardcore Democrats, and it doesn't matter. This is all about never Trump, bad Trump. I'll vote for anybody other than Trump. Now, the question is, how do you win national elections or even statewide elections in any sensible state running on the kind of stuff that these Democrats are running on? I guess we'll see during the midterms. Now, a lot of these congressional districts are gerrymandered to such a degree that it doesn't matter who runs. Democrats or Republicans are going to win because the districts have become so gerrymandered. But it is still hard for me to grasp Democrats really winning much of anything beyond these deep blue cities and states because of how radical they are. Let's keep listening to these clips. This is going to be clip 8. This will infuriate you. This is President Trump honoring Irina Zaritska. She's the Ukrainian refugee who was knifed down and killed in Charlotte, Charlotte, North Carolina, on the subway, on the train, by a repeat violent offender that was let out by the Democrats. This is clip 8.
Arrested over a dozen times and was released through no cash bail. Stood up and viciously slashed a knife through her neck and body. No one will ever forget there were people on that train. No one will ever forget the expression of terror on Irina's face as she looked up at her attacker in the last seconds of her life. She died instantly. She had escaped a brutal war only to be slain by a hardened criminal, set free to kill in America, came in through open borders. Mrs. Zaretsky, tonight I promise you we will ensure justice for your magnificent daughter, Irina. How do you not stand? How do you not stand? I'm asking this Congress.
Well, there you have it. That's President Trump looking at the Democrats at the very end saying, how do you not stand? Here we have the parents of a slain refugee that was knifed in the neck by a repeat violent scumbag in Charlotte, North Carolina. And the Democrats don't have the decency to get out of their seat and stand in honor of her parents who were present. You talk about some sick people. President Trump later looked at the Democrats and pointed at them and said, these people, quote, these people are crazy. I'm telling you, they are crazy. What some honesty from President Trump. We'll be back in a few.
They said to each other, did not our hearts burn within us while he talked to us on the road, while he opened to us the scriptures? My name is Abraham Hamilton III, and this is the Hamilton Minute. These words were shared between Cleopas and his companion on the 7-mile walk from Jerusalem to Emmaus as Jesus, in resurrected form, used the Hebrew scriptures to reveal himself to them as the Messiah. There are at least 109 distinct biblical prophecies the Messiah had to fulfill. The mathematical probability of such a feat occurring is astoundingly absurd, yet that absurdity is satisfied in Jesus, the Messiah. Come, let us adore him.
Listen each weekday from 5 to 6 p.m. Central for the Hamilton Corner. For more from Abraham Hamilton III, Public Policy Analyst for the American Family Association.
The following is a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
I had a lot of credit card debt, and it stressed me out. But what I thought was a solution turned out to be a problem. I kept hearing ads about debt settlement that seemed too good to be true. And actually, it was. When I called, they told me to stop paying my bills. That didn't sound right to me at all, so I hung up. Later, I found out that debt settlement is bad, real bad. Then I learned that there is a right way to pay off your credit cards. It's called a debt management program from the great team at Trinity. Trinity had a plan. In the end, I paid off my bills, I saved thousands, and I even improved my credit score.
If credit card debt has you down, call Trinity at 1-800-788-1813.
My name is Heather. Please forget debt settlement and remember Trinity Debt Management.
1-800-788-1813.
Many of you remember 1976 when we had the bicentennial. I know I do. Here in our country, our beloved America, as we celebrated 200 years. Well, now we're celebrating 250 years. We're going to go to some great places on our tours this year. In June and September, we're going to Washington, D.C. We're going to Williamsburg. It's going to be a wall-to-wall trip of American history and learning about our Christian heritage. We're also going to Boston this year. So for those of you who remember 1976, I know there are some of you who remember the year 1776. We want you to come along with us on this particular tour because you're going to be a special guest of ours. So if you want information on our tours, go to wildmongroup.com, WILDMON group.com, WILDMON and we hope to see you on one of our 2026 Spiritual Heritage Tours.
At the Core podcasts are available at afr.net. Now, back to At the Core on American Family Radio.
Welcome back to the program here on American Family Radio. At the Core is the name of the program. I'm Walker Wildmon. This is American Family Radio. AFR.net is our URL. Well, there's much more we could talk about. Let's see what we have left from the State of the Union. I will play this last clip. Well, not the last. I have a couple more. But nonetheless, let's play. This is going to be kind of the wrap-up. There was a lot of good stuff from President Trump last night. I would say it's one of his best speeches. As I said at the beginning of the last segment, the highlight for me was there wasn't this fake unity talk. Because how do you unify with Marxists? Well, you don't. That's not how you get a Declaration of Independence. That's how that's not how you get American independence. But President Trump wrapped up his speech after over 90 minutes, nearly 2 hours, talking about how the revolution of 1776 that brought about American independence, liberty, and prosperity continues today. This is going to be clip 7. Let's listen.
The golden age of America is upon us. The revolution that began in 1776 has not ended. It still continues because the flame of liberty and independence still burns in the heart of every American patriot. And our future will be bigger, better, brighter, bolder, and more glorious than ever before. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.
Well, there you have it. What better fitting speech than America's 250th? And look, I think it's a blessing that we have President Trump for America's 250th, because I can't think of anything more shameful and embarrassing than to have a Democrat with their wicked agenda at the helm of government for America's 250th. I think that would have been an unmitigated disaster, an embarrassment for our nation. And so I'm thankful that we have President Trump for this 250th anniversary, of which we'll be highlighting throughout the year on American Family Radio. All right, let's pivot and talk about what's going on in Iran. This was brought up last night. President Trump alluded to it briefly about potential conflict or strikes on Iran. And what I'm seeking here, and I think what we should all be seeking here, is precise clarity on what exactly our goal is. All right. I think the American people are owed a full explanation and justification for any potential future conflict with Iran. In the past, President Trump does have credibility on the issue of foreign conflict, foreign entanglements, military intervention. President Trump has built up a lot of credibility on this front. He has not engaged or drug us into new wars. He has done various kinetic strikes militarily that have lasted hours and not days. All right. So President Trump has credibility on this. This is not, casting shade on President Trump. But we have to understand what's going on here. And I'm going to set this up to where we all understand that the talking point that Iran can't have nuclear weapons has been spoken for over 30 years. Over 30 years, this talking point of, well, Iran can't have nukes, that's been a talking point and a messaging ploy, whether it be genuine or disingenuous, for over 30 years. So my point in bringing this up is that's not going to cut it anymore. You can't tell me, the American people, or we, the American people, who've endured these decades-long wars costing trillions of dollars and thousands of American lives, you can't just say, well, we got to keep Iran from getting nuclear weapons, thus everything we do with Iran is justified. That's not going to work. It has to be deeper than that. It has to be more honest than that. All right? Let's play a clip here. This is actually an Al Jazeera, for better or worse, but honest report from Al Jazeera, by the way, on how long Bibi Netanyahu, the prime minister of Israel, has been warning and foreshadowing Iranian nuclear weapons. This goes back to 1992, clip 9.
So how much enriched uranium do you need for a bomb? And how close is Iran to getting it? Well, let me show you. Brought a diagram for you. Here's a diagram. This is a bomb. This is a fuse. In the case of Iran's nuclear plans to build a bomb, this bomb has to be filled with enough enriched uranium. And Iran has to go through 3 stages. Where's Iran? Iran's completed the first stage. Now they're well into the second stage. And by next spring, at most, by next summer, at current enrichment rates, they will have finished the medium enrichment and move on to the final stage. From there, it's only a few months, possibly a few weeks, before they get enough enriched uranium for the first bomb. If these are the facts, and they are, necessary to make a bomb.
All right, I uploaded the wrong clip, but that was a good clip. That was 2012 UN speech, Netanyahu with his infamous picture of the bomb and the red line. But here, let me give you this timeline, and maybe if we cover this again, I'll bring in the full breakdown of this in a clip form. But nonetheless, let's go back. 1992, Netanyahu warns the Knesset that Iran is 3 to 5 years from being able to independently develop and produce a nuclear bomb. 1992, the year before I was born. All right. In his book in 1995, Fighting Terrorism, Netanyahu repeats similar warnings using the 3 to 5 year timeline on Iran's nuclear ambitions. 2002, Netanyahu testifies before a U.S. congressional committee linking Iran, along with Iraq, to nuclear pursuits and advocating intervention and regime change. That's a quote from Netanyahu's testimony in 2002. I've got the clip on that as well. 2009 and 2010, as prime minister, Netanyahu claims Iran is months to a year away from a nuclear bomb capability in various statements. Fast forward 2012, the clip you just heard, Netanyahu appears at the UN, brings the infamous drawing of the bomb, and says Iran is here. They're in the final stages of a nuclear bomb. That's 2012. 2015, Netanyahu strongly opposes the Iranian nuclear deal with Obama. In an address to Congress, he argues it paves Iran's path to nuclear weapons, calls it a bad deal. 2018, Netanyahu reveals what Israel claims is a secret atomic archive stolen from Tehran, and continues to warn about Iran's nuclear capabilities. Pretty much, I've got almost every year, every 2 to 3 years, Netanyahu is publicly warning Iran either has nukes or they're weeks away from nukes. All right. So the point in bringing this up is that you can't say something is a threat for 30 years, just like they've been doing climate change, and we're weeks away, and you keep using that as a justification for everything. All right? Now, I don't have access to classified information. I don't want access to classified information, but it doesn't matter. Whatever they're saying publicly, either they're lying or well, I don't really know what else they're doing. Because you cannot continue saying Iran is weeks away from a nuclear bomb, and we're 30 years down the road, and you're still saying Iran is weeks away from a nuclear bomb. It just doesn't work. Something's not adding up here. And so I don't know what President Trump is going to do here with Iran, but he cannot come out and justify whatever on earth he does with saying Iran was weeks away from a nuclear bomb and we had to step in. Really? Because apparently Iran doesn't have nukes, at least that's what we're told, but they're close to it. What I think could be possible is that Iran has actually been pursuing nuclear weapons for probably 30 years. But Israel and the U.S. continue interrupting their plans through assassinations and other forms of sabotage. That's probably what's been happening here, and it has prevented Iran from actually crossing the line and getting nukes that they can deliver on a ballistic missile warhead. Total speculation. But that's like best case scenario as far as justification for U.S. involvement in the region. But I don't even know if that's true. I don't even know. Nobody knows how quote, close is Iran to nuclear weapons. I have no idea because they won't tell us. They keep saying weeks, but you've been saying that for 30 years before I was born. And so the point here is we just want the president to be honest with us. Whatever on earth they're looking at on the intelligence front that makes them feel like we've got to send a lot of assets to the region and drop a lot of bombs on Iran, just tell us. And if it's just for regime change like Lindsey Graham wants, then just tell us that. Just say, we don't like the Iranian regime. They are contrary. Their existence is contrary to American foreign policy in the region. They're a problem, and we're going to get rid of them. And this is what we do. We do regime change. We've been doing it for a long time, and we're going to keep doing it. Just be honest, but don't throw out, well, Iran's nuclear bombs and Iran's going to, bomb New York City with a nuke. Stop. Our military is way too advanced for that kind of saber rattle. Now let's play this clip. This is going to be clip 10. This is President Trump telling us in June that Iranian nuclear ambitions and nuclear operations are completely obliterated. This is clip 10.
Tonight I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated.
Well, to me, there went the justification for doing anything with Iran on the nuclear front. Because you can't come out for days and go, the best military campaign ever, our bunker busters went so deep, it destroyed their nuclear ambitions. They're set back 10 years, is what we were told. And then 6 months later come out and go, yeah, you know what? We got to go back. We got to go back. And we got to bomb more sites. So one of two things happened here. If, a big if, Iran is genuinely pursuing nuclear capabilities for the purpose of bombing one of their enemies. One of two things happened here. Either our bunker busters really weren't that successful, or Iran moved the enriched uranium before we bombed their facility. Or they don't even have nukes, which I hope that's not the case because of what we've been told for 30 years. But something had to have happened here to cause us to want to go back to Iran. We just got done doing this. It seemed like a very seamless operation, no American casualties, very minimal U.S. military assets actually needed to get it done. And then boom, we're out and we say, we just set Iran back 10 years on the nuclear front. Whoa. We did an operation in 24 hours and we set Iran back a decade on the nuclear front, nuclear program. That's a big deal. That's a success. But if what we're talking about now is regime change, they just need to tell us that. Just tell us that. Don't say, well, Iran nuclear weapons and they're planning to bomb New York City. No, just say what we all believe is true, and that is the Lindsey Grahams of the world. They are dominating the decision-making in Washington. They've been saying for 20 plus years, actually going back farther, that we need regime change in Iran. This is not a secret. This has been a talking point on television from people like Lindsey Graham that we need, quote, regime change in Iran. And if that's the case, then just tell us. Make the best case, even though it's going to be very difficult, but make the best case for regime change in Iran and how it strategically benefits America for decades to come in the region. And this is a net positive for America. And once again, this is barring some groundbreaking development that changes all of our minds that the president comes out with to justify whatever we're going to do in Iran. Maybe he comes out with something that just is absolutely shocking to me, and I'm like, wow, that's why we bombed Iran. Maybe so. I don't know. But I'm just telling you the messaging we've been getting for 33 plus years that I just played right there of Netanyahu warning that Iran is weeks away from nuclear bombs, that messaging isn't going to work with the American people to make us look at this and go, oh yeah, that makes sense. Now I know why we're over there. And you understand, everybody knows why the American people feel this way. This is despite what polls say on Twitter, any foreign entanglements, especially that last longer than like 24 hours, the American people do not have the appetite for. We just don't. We've been burned out of these foreign interventions that get us tangled up in conflicts for years, cost hundreds of billions of dollars. And so there's a lot more we could say there. There's a lot more to this than what I've told you, and we've covered it in previous shows. But the Iranian nuclear threat is not going to cut it from an excuse standpoint on engagement with Iran. There's got to be more to this picture that we're told to help the American people understand. We'll be back in a few.
Over the last 10 years, young people have been deconstructing their faith, or more accurately, de-Christianizing. The First Great Awakening was a supernatural move of God that happened in the American colonies just before the American Revolution. How we need another Great Awakening today. Please help spread the sparks of revival by supporting AFA with a gift, and we'll send you a free copy of the DVD, Desperate for More, The First Great Awakening. Go to afa.net/revival today. As we watch world events unfold and fulfill Scripture, it's hard to believe anyone could doubt God and His Word are real, and yet there are so many who either question or completely refuse to believe it. The God Who Speaks is a 90-minute documentary that hits the doubt head-on with evidence that proves God is real and His Word is the ultimate authority. Watch it anytime and invite others to watch with you. Just visit stream.afa.net. That's stream.afa.net.
How about this? Some actual good news on the healthcare front, even as costs just keep skyrocketing. So if you're 65 or older, MediShare now offers MediShare 65 Plus. Call them. You can talk to them about this. A lot of people are taking advantage of this now because even if you have Medicare Parts A and B, you know there are out-of-pocket things, deductibles and copays that just keep going up. And the whole point is to help you by giving you a low, consistent monthly payment that fills in the gaps. In fact, I can tell you how much MediShare 65 Plus is. For example, it's $99 a month up to age 75. It keeps costs under control. That helps with peace of mind. MediShare is trusted too. It's been around for 30 years, and it's a community of people who help each other. Business owners, retirees, pastors, teachers. People love being part of it. Here's the number you can call now. They are easy to talk to. Call 833-45-BIBLE. That's 833-45-BIBLE. 833-45-BIBLE.
They're coming for your family, not with guns, not with armies, but with laws, with lawsuits, with ballots and bureaucrats. Parental rights are under attack. Marriage is being redefined. Your values, they want them silenced, and they're counting on you to do nothing. But here's the thing, we're not backing down. I'm Walker Wildmon, and AFA Action is in the fight, in the legislature, in the courtroom, and at the ballot box. We're stopping bad legislation, we're challenging activist judges, and through iVoter Guide, we're helping Christians vote like it matters, because it does. Thousands of families are already standing with us, and I believe the American family is still worth fighting for. But we can't do it without you, and we need your help today. Visit afaaction.net right now. Give today. Join us on the front lines, because the other side isn't slowing down, and neither can we. afaaction.net. your voice, your values, your vote.
This is At the Core on American Family Radio with your host, Walker Wildmon.
Welcome back to The Core here on American Family Radio. Glad to have you back with us here on the program. Last segment here underway. We have our good friend with us, Jerry Boyer, president, founder of Boyer Research, and frequently heard on Faith and Finance with Rob West as well, and myself. We're on there together talking about corporate engagement. I wanted to have Jerry on. We could actually probably do this every week and have plenty of content because of all the work we're doing. But nonetheless, Jerry's on with us now to talk a little bit about our work on corporate engagement. Jerry, welcome back.
Great to be with you. By the way, I'm down with that. If you want to do something more regularly, I'm good to go.
Yeah, we got plenty to talk about, don't we?
We do. I mean, we could almost do daily.
We could.
Very few people know what's going on in corporate America. There are almost daily victories right now. The whole woke ESG bubble is collapsing. It's just an amazing thing to see.
Yeah, I get your emails, and it's like I can't figure out which one's the best. It's like every morning, it's like, oh, we just, ESG's gone here, and DEI's done here, and religious freedom's a thing over here. And so it's hard to prioritize what's the best, but as much as we can highlight, we will. Jerry, we, American Family Association, with the help of Boyer Research, engaged with Bank of America using our shareholder position through the proposal process. We began having meetings with Bank of America. And just so our listeners know, when we put forth these proposals, whether it has to do with charitable giving to religious organizations, whether it has to do with ensuring that employee resource groups, that Christians have the ability to form an employee resource group where maybe they're currently not allowed to. There's all kinds of corporate policies that we engage in. But when we do so, the goal of the company, for the most part, is to get the ballot off the agenda, right? I mean, that's pretty much their goal, especially with the shareholder engagement teams within these companies. They just want to kind of have less fanfare, less controversy, less to talk about. That's a win for them. So there's always this tug of war on what gets on the shareholder ballot come meeting time. And that's what we did with Bank of America. So update us on that.
Yeah, so that's the way the system works under American law, especially under SEC regulations. Shareholders who own enough for a long enough period of time can put proposals on the ballot of companies. Now, they have to fulfill certain rules, and the company can fight it, and the companies usually do fight it. But if we prevail, and you've prevailed a lot, the proposal actually appears on the ballot. Now, the companies are taking a stance of trying to negotiate with groups like you to remove the proposal. And we help with those negotiations. And the answer is, sure, if you give us something, you have to change something. Or we were wrong, you don't discriminate against churches. Or we were wrong, you do have a Christian employee resource group. Or we were wrong, you don't use this Southern Poverty Law Center's hate group list. Our proposal was a mistake, we'll withdraw it. But that's not what's generally happening. What's generally happening is the proposal is based on something that's accurate, and that they may need to reconsider some policy. What we're finding is it's really common for companies that have an employee matching grant program. So they want to encourage their employees to be charitable, and the employees can give to a nonprofit, and the company will match that. But there's an outside service called Benevity, which administers these. The companies don't run these themselves. They use this outside group. And Benevity has in these filters, like they'll use the Southern Poverty Law Center hate group list, or they often have filters which discriminate against religious nonprofits. So you can give to the soup kitchen, but you can't give to First Baptist Church or to Tree of Life Synagogue. And very often the companies don't know that that's even there, because Benevity has not been transparent with them, or at least the companies tell us they don't know that it's there. So we'll shine a light on that. And Bank of America looked at that and they said, oh, okay, well, why do we do that? And we said, yeah, why? What is the purpose of that? And it's usually kind of framed as avoiding controversy. But we're saying if you're discriminating against the most common form of charity in America, which is a citizen giving to a church a synagogue or a ministry, that creates controversy. It doesn't eliminate controversy. And the safest course of action for you, Bank of America or anybody else, NVIDIA would be another one, is to not be in the business of deciding which charities are legitimate or not. The IRS already does that. So you're a 501c3, right, Walker? So the IRS has said you're a 501c3, tax deductible contributions. The IRS has already said, yep, they're approved. So just use the IRS approved list of actual verified charities, and then nobody can say you're taking sides. Because otherwise, are we going to match the Human Rights Campaign? Well, what about Turning Point? Well, what about whoever? What about the ACLU? Instead, just match to any 501c3. Terrorist groups are not 501c3s. Criminal enterprises are not 501c3s. Political parties aren't. It has to be a charitable purpose. The IRS exercises the due diligence. Bank of America said, hey, that makes sense. And they made the change.
Yeah.
Congratulations to American Family Association.
Amen. Amen. And we couldn't do it without you guys running a lot of this stuff behind the scenes and some of these meetings. I try to show up to some of them, but definitely not all. So your team's running mediator, if you will, on this. So yeah, this is a huge victory. To your point, there's no reason for Bank of America or any of these companies to say, yeah, we'll do charitable matching, but we're going to pick and choose which charities qualify. It's like, number one, who wants to be in that position to have to say, oh no, they qualify and these don't. And so this is a big deal. So now churches and ministries that are faith-based will have the ability to have their gifts matched should a employee of Bank of America decide to give to a religious organization from Bank of America. This is a very big deal. Jerry, it seems as though corporate America is realizing or beginning to remember, if you will, that meddling around in these ideological battles and in some instances these culture battles, it doesn't make sense from a business standpoint, and it actually makes their job, it makes corporate's job more difficult because they're having to like throw, put their finger up in the wind and go, where's it blowing today, right? What's the cool thing today? Is it the Human Rights Campaign or is it AFA? Which one's the cool one today?
It's AFA.
Right, of course, every day.
That's the cool one.
But who wants to be in the position? I wouldn't if I was just a company that's like, hey, let's, like Home Depot, let's sell the best hardware in the country. I wouldn't want to have to be meddling around in like, what's the cool hip thing today from a culture standpoint. I would just want to do what I know is best, and that is focus on the core business model, focus on the customers, and do the best job you can do with what your core mission and vision is.
Right. Sell monkey wrenches, right? Home Depot should do that. So should Lowe's. They don't need to be getting involved with politics. I think that a couple of things happened. One, the wind was all blowing in one direction for so long that they didn't really anticipate a switch in the blowing of the wind. Because we've been talking to these companies for a long time. And basically what we were getting early on is, who are you? No, all the risk is the left getting angry against us and boycotting us. So conservatives didn't show up, and the left showed up, and it gave the impression to the company that I don't know, somehow these Republicans are winning elections, but I don't know how, because everyone who talks to us, wants us to go more and more woke. Yeah. Right. It's the Pauline Kyle. How did Nixon get elected? No one I know voted for him. Right. So that's a little bit of a dated reference. Mm-hmm. But okay, so I think what's happened now is the backlash formed. And we tried to warn these companies. We said a backlash is coming. And here's the difference. The left is very transactional. Do what we want, and we'll give you a cookie. The right is not as political. So when the right wakes up, it's like a bear that had its nap interrupted. You woke it up in the middle of hibernation season. The bear is angry. It's going to eat everybody in sight, and it's going to stay angry for a long time. So we try to tell these companies, you need to anticipate a middle America backlash. And most of them underestimated that middle America backlash, and now it's upon them. And now what I'm finding is even when they do the right thing, we're still mad at them. And companies that have reversed almost everything and are doing the right thing. Someone remembers a story from 4 years ago and thinks that they're still woke. So I'm going to say, yeah, the companies should have anticipated this. But, Christians should have shown up. We shouldn't have taken corporate America for granted. Now, I think we've learned that lesson. But I think maybe the lesson we haven't learned is you read a couple of good stories or you see a tweet from Robbie Starbuck. Oh, it's okay now. It's not okay now. We have a momentum shift. We are not close to victory. We are getting victories, but I mean, the thing is, Human Rights Campaign, in order to get a 100, you have to pay for puberty blockers for children. So we reverse that. That is so far from neutral. That is like really crazy out there policy.
Yeah.
So those are victories on going after things that were unthinkable, but they did them anyway. To get to real neutrality, it's going to take a lot more time.
Yeah, absolutely. And the good thing is we have no plan to stop on these proposals and these engagements because there's no upside to stopping this or letting your foot off the pedal, so to speak. We're just going to keep doing them, and we're going to keep figuring out what these company policies are and make these companies go on the record for sanity or for insanity in some instances. I wanted to highlight an email I just got from you this morning on Delta. Once again, there's so many corporations that you guys are engaging with. This isn't one of ours, but nonetheless, your team has been working with Delta on not only DEI, but this HRC survey. And for those who don't know, the Human Rights Campaign, to Jerry's point earlier, has been dominating corporate America for years. This goes back over a decade, probably two. Human Rights Campaign has been basically bullying these corporations into filling out their survey and proving how, friendly they are to the LGBTQ agenda. And there's been just a ton of participation. There's only been a handful of companies in the Fortune 100 or 500 that actually haven't participated. But now, Jerry, you're seeing like with Delta and others, they're pulling out of this HRC survey at record numbers.
2/3 of Fortune 500 companies have pulled out.
Wow.
That's an amazing thing. That's given how quickly it rose. And I think that was arrogance on the part of the Human Rights Campaign. So you go back 10, 12 years ago, what did HRC ask for? Commit to not discriminating against gay people. Well, okay. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know. Boyer Research could have signed that, right? We're not going to discriminate against gay. Doesn't make any sense, to say, well, you're a great computer programmer, but, you're having sex with someone of the same gender. Therefore, we're going to not use you to write Python code. I mean, it just doesn't make a lot of sense, right? But what they kept doing is moving the goalpost. And it was so slow. And what happens is HRC would develop a relationship with someone in the company, and it's their job to work with HRC. And then HRC is adding something and adding something and adding something. And then you're confessing to your cis privilege. And then, you're subjecting your employees to this toxic, Human Rights Campaign, CRT type training, and then it ends up with bathroom wars and puberty blockers for kids and Bud Light type marketing. And so
it's never enough.
It's never enough. And see, that's the thing about ideology. As a conservative, you can satisfy me by just sticking to your job.
Yeah.
I don't come back with greater demands every year. If you stick to your job, we're done.
Yeah.
If we talk next year, it's just to say how you doing, right? But with leftism is different than conservatism. Conservatism is a position. Leftism is a vector. It's a line. It's a direction. And it has to keep going. There always has to be a vanguard of the revolution. And we saw where it was going, justifying pedophilia. The next phase was going to be, hey, some people like boys, some people think they're a different gender, I should say other men. Some people like boys, right? So it was arcing in that direction.
Yes.
You just got to get off that train because it's going to keep going. And I think what happened is companies came to realize that the goalpost was going to keep moving. And they said, well, let's get out of this. So what we said to the company is that's great. Now, what guardrails do you have in the future when the next thing comes along? When the thing of the month comes up and shows up and says, well, you need to sign up for this.
Yeah.
To say, wait a minute, last time we signed up for something, we ended up with an open-ended commission that ended up destroying our brand. So that kind of like basically helping them to develop a critical antibody against outside groups. And so what we've recommended to companies is, number one, don't participate in any outside surveys.
Yes.
Because they're not really surveys, they're really promises. Number two, any groups that you're in, practice zero-based budgeting. If you're in an anti-climate group, and if you're in this group or that group, start out every January 1st, we are not in any groups. We're not in the GARM, the media one.
Yep.
We're not in any anti-climate groups or any anti-fossil fuel. We're not in HRC. We're not in any groups.
We're in grow. We're in grow our business group.
We're in grow our business group, and then they have to fully justify adding you to their group, and we're getting a lot of response to that idea.
Yeah. I mean, we're basically, Jerry, you and I are doing corporate America a favor. You're
an investor. We want them to do well.
Yes.
I'm an investor.
Yeah.
All our clients are investors. We're not against them.
Yeah, we're like, hey, let's get back to the basics and ignore all the noise, which every company should be like, yeah, let's do that. Because it's so easy, right? The companies are successful for a reason, and that's when they stay out of this garbage.
And once we've established the relationship with them, they get it. They get that we're not another version of the other side,
Right.
that we are actually for them getting back to business. And once that happens and we have a credible relationship, then that's when we see all these things that are happening.
Amen.
Because we're not going to come back next year with demands to become a Christian company or demands to become a Republican company. We're not trying to do that. We're
Amen.
not HRC. We want stick to business. We're good at
Amen.
it.
Hey, thanks, Jerry.
We're not good at the other stuff. Thank you, Walter.
All right, folks. See you.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family